and welcome to Blancpain GT Series Asia. My name is Claire Jedrick and welcome to Suzuka Circuit for rounds 5 and 6. Right now I am with race commentator Bruce Jones. Bruce, how are you?
Immensely well. Just love being at Suzuka. I've been here for so many decades, but it never ceases to put a smile on my face because it's such a brilliant place to be. And you know what? The sun is actually shining to make it even better.
Well, you know, it's a notoriously difficult and flowy circuit. You know, the weather is looking slightly shifty out there. I saw the weather reports. It looks like there might be thunderstorms. What do you think that's going to do to stir the pot for the championship points?
It's not going to affect the pros because they should keep it on the island. It may become an island if we have really heavy Suzuka-style rain. But what it's going to do, we've got Pro-Am lineups in this, Am lineups, and they're the ones that will either just drop their pace enormously when it becomes wet or maybe make mistakes, and that could be costly in the championship mix.
Now, I've been hanging around the garages and the drivers just for a little bit earlier. It seems to be the talk is all about tyres, and tyre pressures. Now, the tyres seem to be dropping off quite fast, and they've got a window for about, 2 laps. Does this seem to worry everybody out there?
Well, it should. This is a circuit that eats tyres, and it's one thing in qualifying where people couldn't get them to go for 2 laps running. They had to cool them down and go back for a third flying lap. But in the race, if someone goes too hard too soon, they get the red mist, they will leave themselves with nothing to play with at the end of their stint. So you see some people suddenly just tumbling 2 or 3 positions. So the good guys will keep them sweet, but not everybody's going to remember to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. Now, we are at Suzuka Circuit for rounds 5 and 6. We're going to take a look at some of the highlights from round 3 and 4 at Buriram.
It was hot, humid, slightly breezy, and the Ferrari on the right-hand side with Leo Yi really waited second on the grid. As you can see, running down to turn 1, back in 4th place, and pushing very hard indeed was number 3, Martin Rump at the start. But it's a 999 Mercedes in the lead of the race. There it tended to stay with Patrick Niederhauser at the wheel. In GT4, it was BMW ahead of Mercedes, but not always in that order. And then a big problem for Alexander Matchell, who'd just taken over the 888, well, driving the 888 Mercedes before handing over to Maxi Book, but unfortunately that slow, smoky puncture brought out a full course yellow. GT4, it was the 666 Reinhold Renger Mercedes that moved ahead of the better placed of the BMWs and took the lead in the class. And the 19 Lamborghini was the first of the front runners to blink. Dennis Lind brought it in and Martin Kodrick went out and closed the disadvantage. And then this was the lead battle. Martin Kodrick in the Lamborghini, he managed to jump Pommer's Mercedes when they came across a GT4 backmarker and really started challenging it there at the latest possible moment with a drive-through penalty to be served. The Lamborghini number 19 out of the lead of the race into the pit lane. Huge frustration. Maxi Book laps down after the Alexander Matchell puncture and running as fast as the race leader and just providing that comfortable cushion that allowed Marcus Pommer to have that flamboyant finish. Nick Foster had to settle for second place. The number 3 Audi, Frankie Chen, coming home third. And GT4 victory did, after the drive-through penalty for the Mercedes, for the BMW, go to the Mercedes of Reinhold Renger. Patrick Niederhauser, though, very happy indeed. So much passion here in Thailand. It's wonderful to see it. And at the start of the race, it was very tight indeed. From pole position, Maxi Book held down the lead, but Adderley Fong came through to challenge. He would lose out around the opening lap. Various drivers running wide at turn 1. That's normal. But Tim Slade up into second place and then really pushing the Mercedes. That yellow Ferrari, very effective in the hands of the Australian. Then a little bit of rubbing between 2 Korean drivers. Juwon Seo rubbing the paint or down the side of Andrew Kim's Audi. And then insult to injury, or injury to injury, because I'm afraid J-Mac Lamborghini, minding his own business, was cloused by the 22 Cayman, took them both out of the race. By the end, the gap came down to 3.77 seconds, but that was enough, that was plenty. And finally, Maxi Book in the garage, the Group M racing crew could celebrate again. 4 races for them, 4 victories in GT3, and they've come here and taken a double in the GT4 class as well. Really good, strong running from Reinhold Renger, who will be truly exhausted. He did the entire race, whereas everybody else ran in 2 driver crews. Hot work, but hot work that made him very happy indeed.
Well, that was rounds 3 and 4 from Buriram. We're now at Suzuka rounds 3 and 4. And for a race that'll provide excitement, not just for the drivers, but also for the fans. We have a massive Japanese contingent over here, and we want to find out what this circuit means to them.
circuit actually represents Japanese motorsports, in my opinion, because every driver loves this circuit. Yeah, I've won here last year in a Super Trofeo. Actually my first race that I won in single seaters was here and everything. So yeah, it's for me it's like my home circuit. Yeah.
This is a very important circuit, very special circuit. I like this kind of European category. So it's a Blancpain series. So yeah, that's why I want to win this weekend. But I think we are not strong.
Very hard. 暑い。とても暑いです。まあでも楽しくやってて、まあ調子は悪くないです。まあ初めてじゃないんで、まあそこそこできると思うんですけど、まあランボルギーニに乗るの久しぶりなんで、まあ慣れていきたいなと。鈴鹿ラウンドは慣れです。
I'm happy to be here and happy to join his team.
What's it like to have your older brother with you?
Yeah, also I'm very happy, and this is my dream.
いや去年から参戦しまして2回目で、ぜひですねアジアの人たちと一緒に競いたいなと思ってました。そうですね、去年雨で大変苦労したんですけど、今年はドライで自分のパフォーマンスを発揮できているので、ぜひクラスで表彰台を上りたいというふうに思っています。
Now, this is a circuit that's very special to Japanese drivers. And in fact, I have actually had a go on the simulators with this circuit, and it is very, very challenging. And the man to tell you all about it, we've got Bruce Jones.
Thank you very much indeed, Claire. Very hot out there. Nice and cool in my commentary box, but don't forget, though you see the flags blowing, it is hot. Not as hot as we had at Chang International Circuit, but certainly the humidity is soaring. That will be a factor. These cars do have air conditioning, much to the driver's relief, because they'll be racing, some of them nearly 35 minutes. It's a 1 hour race. They can change drivers between 25 minutes into the race and 35 minutes in. But right now, all of them will keep the doors open as much as they can. Just looking down there, one of the BMW Team Studio entries that is top of the class in GT4. They're attracting a lot of interest on home ground. As Claire pointed out, a lot of Japanese drivers, 62 drivers in all, 18 of them are Japanese, and great to have a handful of new teams this weekend. But look at the track, their playing field, 5.807 kilometres, 18 corners around the lap, but there's the gradient change as much as the shape of the track. Lowest point is down at the bottom, turn 1 and turn 2 at the start of the lap, and it rises to spoon curve, the highest point, and then it plunges back down, most notably out of that final chicane, the Casio Triangle, down the start-finish straight. In fact, so steep is the straight even in the pits that there was an official message saying that there's an allocation of how many drivers are allowed to push the cars around. They're allowed 2 more per car, such is the way they don't want to tire out the mechanics. But it's busy place down the grid, as you can see, and Claire has worked her way through the crowd, and she's caught up with the man who's dominating GT4. He's got a battle on his hands this weekend. She's got Reinhold Renger.
Hi there, we're here with some of the GT4 drivers. We've got Reinhold Renger over here in pole position. Congratulations. Tell us about your qualifying session.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was actually pretty good. So with these tires you have 2 laps, and we was lucky enough getting a second fast lap on the ground, and so it was enough for the pole position, which is very important here in Suzuka, of course. We are happy that we are here.
Well, usually you drive alone. What's it like? Is there a bit more pressure now that you've got 2 drivers in this car?
No, actually, so it was just in Buriram, so the plan was always driving with 2 drivers here, because this is the aim of the series actually. So I have a pretty strong, Roy is a pretty strong driver here. He knows the track pretty good, and I learned a lot from him. Suzuka is very difficult, and he's pretty fast, like I said, and we're looking forward for a good race actually.
Well, perfect. Congratulations once again, pole position, and good luck for the race. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Always good to hear from Reinhold, and of course it was very hot work doing the 2 one-hour races on his own in Thailand. But his teammate, new on board this weekend, Ryuichiro Otsuka, last year was racing at this same meeting, but running in the Formula 3 class. So he's moved over from single-seaters, and having seen the pace he's set so far, he's one really worth watching. The 81 BMW, in fact, is second on the grid. It's first on the grid for tomorrow's GT4 race. But BMW Team Studio with us all season. And certainly the BMW M4, one of the later cars to join the GT4 category, is proving very handy indeed, as are those Mercedes AMGs. And certainly each year we get several more manufacturers bringing in a new model to GT4, and the standard keeps on rising and rising, the numbers likewise. This grid, the biggest one we've had all year, 31 cars, 23 in the main GT3 class, and then 8 in GT4. GT3, if you haven't seen it in a Blancpain series, has the Pro category, it has the Pro-Am category, and it has the Amateur category. And of course, the grid for this race, today's race, race 1, is set by driver number 1, and driver number 2 has already set the grid positions for tomorrow's race. But it can mean a car that starts very well today, high up the grid today, the teammate might be the Am part of a Pro-Am category, and they'll be starting necessarily further down the grid tomorrow. So we have races that necessarily are very different indeed. And any time you race on a circuit as amazing as the Suzuka Circuit, the race already is very different indeed. It's old school. It's so technical, brilliant fast corners on it as well as a few slower ones. Lots of gradient change, the almost unique, I know almost unique shouldn't be said, but there are 2 other circuits I think in the world with a crossover where the track runs over the top, but you don't really notice it so much here. Out of the Degness you turn right, go under the bridge, but when you're flying on the return leg you don't notice it. So let's have a look. Here we are on the calendar. We've had Sepang and Chang International. Now we're the first part of a Japanese double-header, Suzuka, and then in 3 weeks' time, Fuji Speedway on the side of that world-famous volcano. Then 2 races in China, Shanghai International Circuit, the Grand Prix Circuit, and Ningbo International Speed Park, a circuit that very few international drivers have even had a look at yet. Whereas here at Suzuka we have, as we said, 18 Japanese drivers. They know it. A lot of the international drivers know this circuit. But you can never have enough visits to Suzuka. There's the backdrop, the sea in the distance, up the gentle slope to the circuit, because it's such a technical stretch of tarmac, 5.8 kilometres. A perfect lap is almost impossible with a lap length that long, because if you get it right at the start of the lap, every possibility you'll make a slight slip up at the end. Soon we'll get to see these 31 cars clear of all the friends, family and VIPs down there who all want to get on the grid. It's such an exciting feeling, the hubbub ahead of the start of the race. But then once they get asked to leave and we get the cars revealed in all their glory, see them all their liveries. Again, it's a pot that's been stirred this weekend. A few Japanese racing teams have joined the GT3 class. Porsche Team EBI, great to have D-Station Racing. They've been in and out of the championship. And then Success Racing and Car Guy Racing in bringing their Lamborghinis. So great to have a change. But let's go down to the grid and hear from Martin Rump on the grid.
Hi there, I'm with Martin Ramp, and he is in pole position for the GT3 category. Martin, how are you, and what's it feel after that qualifying session?
I feel great. We are looking forward to a good race, and starting from pole position is better than it's ever been before, so I'm very excited.
Now, anything can happen during a race. I'm sure that you guys are trying to open up that gap championship points. Who's your biggest competitor?
Ourselves. We just try to finish racing against the clock and, you know, be as fast as we can, consistent, and put in a decent stint.
Well, the weather conditions, it's getting a little bit windy over here. They say that perhaps maybe there could be rain on the way, even for race 2. How will that upset things for your pace?
I mean, it's the same for everyone, so I'm not too concerned about that. But a little bit of wind, maybe some small raindrops, doesn't hurt us, so whatever comes, that comes, and I'm happy.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Martin, and good luck.
Thanks very much, Claire. It's very hard to imagine that anyone could be cooler ahead of the start of the race. There's Martin Rump, the car on pole, but Claire said the magical word, consistency. Listen to their form this year for Absolute Racing. 8th at the first race, 4th, 3rd, 5th. They've kept out of trouble. They're chalking up points all the time. But today, as Martin said, the young Estonian starting from pole position for the first time this year, they've got to hope that a podium is guaranteed for them, as if anything can be guaranteed. But it certainly gives them a real crack at the top. Their Audi, you can just about make it out behind the Mercedes safety car on the left of the screen. now people are being asked to leave the grid, but very, very cool. A lot of drivers don't want to speak so soon before they put their helmets on and get into the cars, but I think on a day as warm and humid as the one we're having at Suzuka, they want to put their helmets on at the last possible moment with the fireproofs underneath. But soon these cars will be going around on their formation lap. The race is due to start at 14:20. It's nearly 14:16. But just to reiterate, what you cannot imagine if you're just watching anywhere around the world is the heat and humidity. It's going to be a hot stint. The race is only an hour, so for some of the drivers it's 25 minutes in the car, for some it's around 35, but it's certainly going to be warm in there, and any air conditioning they can have will make a major difference to them, as much to the psyche as anything else. But for the drivers lined up on the grid, they're looking down to the first corner, not along to the first corner, down. The track drops away to the first two turns, and it looks as though you can go around the outside, but you start to get diminishing returns if you're on the outside when you've got through one, because turn two is soon turning sharply up the hill to one of the most fantastic sequences on any circuit in the world. The S's. It's just a trademark symbol of the circuit at Suzuka. And there's the safety car going sort of slightly off the racing line, thank goodness, up through those curves. We'll probably have the cars 2 by 2 through there on the opening lap, but bring it on. 23 cars in the top GT3 class, 8 in GT4. They will all have their own battles, and with a Pro-Am battle and an Am battle as well. We're heading towards 4 podiums. Sometimes you look from the outside, you think only of the first 3 cars in the race getting to the podium, but there are battles within the overall battle, and those will remain very personal indeed. But bear in mind that the GT4 class has its own battle too, so many a sub-thread, a subplot within the overall story. Track conditions look perfect, but just think of those round black things that keep the wheels off the road. Yes, the tyres. They're going to be absolutely critical in this race and again tomorrow, because the circuit here, look at it, it's changing direction almost all the time. In a lot of those corners, you can carry a huge amount of speed through, so tyre wear is very high indeed. A driver who doesn't pay attention to that, it's going to be very, very tricky indeed. Now, we've got a pair of brothers. They've known each other all their lives, but never raced together. Let's go to Tetsuya Yamano.
With me in car 33, we've got Tatsuya, a Japanese driver on a Japanese circuit. How does it feel driving on Suzuka representing Japan?
Oh yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and all I can do is do my best.
And what's it like driving, pairing up with your brother? It's got to be absolutely exciting. Is there a lot of pressure?
Oh no, he's fast enough. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm happy to be with him.
Okay, well, how good a driver do you think he can become?
I don't know. Well, I just do my best. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tatsuya, and good luck.
Thank you.
Bye.
So the Yamano brothers racing together for the very first time. They've had parallel racing careers, but have you seen the smiles on their faces in the paddock? I think they're really enjoying this different twist, and a chance for a lot of these Japanese teams to come a race in a fast establishing series. The Blancpain GT Series Asia, nearly halfway through its second season. The grids continue to grow, the prestige continues to grow, the cosmopolitan nature of the grid continues to grow as well, which is fantastic. Of course, quite a lot of these runners are going to come out and play at Suzuka again for the 10 hours round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge that is in the end of August. So a chance for a few of these teams to just get their eye in to see how their cars are behaving on the Pirelli tyres around this very, very technical circuit. So it's great to have a new mix of teams and drivers, and even the established teams that run the entire season are changing their drivers around. So many new faces in new places, but the intent is the same, the content is the same in terms of the cars going out for 1 hour of racing with a mandatory pit stop partway through for a driver change. But for all the drivers on the grid at the moment, it's about keeping it clean, gaining a position or two if they possibly can at the first corner, but principally doing 2 other things: staying out of trouble and keeping some life in their rubber. All too easy to go too hard too soon, and then you really, really will be fighting a losing battle. Formation lap ahead of us. The safety car leading around the Mercedes-AMG down through turns 1 and 2. Comes out of the corner, then you can see the start of the twist, a left followed by a right, by a left, by a right, as they go through these S's, the Senna S's, up the hill. So onto the formation lap, led around by Martin Rump in the Absolute Racing Audi. FFF Racing team are well represented with the Lamborghini in second place. Group M Mercedes in third place. Just note, when I get through the top 7, on the order, we will have 6 different manufacturers. There, as we go to row 2 of the grid, Mercedes and Porsche showing better. Shea Davis, 4th fastest. Hub Auto with their Ferrari, joined by a second Lamborghini. Go to the next row, KCMG Nissan, row 5, another Mercedes, and then yet another Audi. The Audi's the tail end of the top 10. Absolute Racing, a whole host of them. Second of the Porsches in 12th overall. Carrying on down, 23 GT3 class runners. They'll all be ahead of the GT4 runners. And down at the back, a car that has huge support here. Here we have Car Guy Racing, Takeshi Kimura, a real star of television in Japan. He's out here. Then we've moved back down beyond those to the GT4 class runners. Starting with Group N Racing Team, just seeing it there in 24th on the grid, just a whisker ahead. Ryoichiro Otsuka ahead of Takayuki Kinoshita in the better of the 2 BMW M4s. So real mix of manufacturers, real mix of drivers, of nationalities. But one thing that unifies them all is their love of the challenge of the Suzuka Circuit. There it is, the last car on the grid, the second of the BMWs from Team Studi. Plenty of pace from them, but just to reiterate, it's Audi from Lamborghini, from Mercedes, from Porsche, from Ferrari, then Lamborghini again, Nissan, Audi, etc. But there we have 6 manufacturers in the top 7 places on the grid. That is why GT3 racing is so popular around the world. Friends, family, fans all around the world, they have their favourite cars. And the fact that so many of these cars are represented on the grid is why GT3 is so popular around the world. And equally, with each year, GT4 gets more and more manufacturers involved. So many of the manufacturers have cars in both classes. Mercedes do, Audi does, and so we go. BMW does, and many, many others. And Porsche too, of course. And good to see Porsches right up there for the first time, really, this season. 4th on the grid, Shea Davis for Craft Bamboo Racing. Teammates is back in 12th. That's Aidan Reid, 2 Australians in the team there. Comes, look out for 666, middle of your shot. That's the top runner in GT4. That's the newcomer, Ryoichiro Otsuka, who's joining Reinhold Renger. Reinhold has 3 wins from the 4 starts this year, but the formation lap nearly at an end. On the front row, coming around the final corner, Martin Rump, Dennis Lind alongside him in the Lamborghini. Then Marcus Pommer, Shea Davis. There they are, 2 by 2. Wait until we get the last runners coming around the final corner. It's quite a long hold because we don't want the final corner cars around the corner so they can't see the starting gantry. Look, the red lights are on all 5 of them. The last few cars coming into picture. There we have all 31 cars. The lights go green. Who is better away? Good start from the Ferrari in the middle of the field, but it looks as though the pole man is doing it up. Martin Rump just is he in front of Dennis Lind. Dennis looking to go around the outside. Can he make it work? It's a long way around the outside. He has done the job. I didn't think he was going to do that. I thought he'd have to back off. In 3rd place, it's still Marcus Pommer, but he's being challenged very hard indeed by Shea Davis, who puts the Porsche into 3rd place if he can turn into the second part of the S's. But Dennis Lind showed really, really serious intent there. He stuck to his guns, and Martin Rump eventually had to back out. And Shea Davis has made it up to 3rd place in the Porsche, so the Australian going very well indeed. 5th place is Hiroshi Hamaguchi, so he's gained a place in number 63 at the expense of Li Hongyi in the Ferrari, who looked so he's fast away, then he got a bit boxed into turn 1. But Dennis Lind wins the prize for application. Eduardo Liberati there, he is 23 in the car that started 7th, still running 7th, that big Nissan. What a good opening lap for the FFF racing team. The 19 cars second on the grid, but first by the time they got out of turn 1, moved ahead into turn 2. And now trying to stretch his legs. Dennis Lind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 car lengths between them. Just remember what I said before the start of the race. They don't want to push too hard, too soon on their tyres. So Dennis will be fired up. What a brilliant start he made, but he must not take too much life out of his tyres. That will be in the mind, somewhere in the back, perhaps, of all these guys. They're racers. Their job is to pass the car in front. In fact, the next car that may be passed may be the one in 5th place, with Hiroshi Hamaguchi, the second of the FFF racing team Lamborghinis. He's getting pressure from Li Hongli behind him. So the OD Racing Audi's gained a few places at the start of the race. ARN Racing, totally new lineup this weekend, so they're not quite on the pace where we've seen them in the previous races. But what a good opening lap, what a good opening run down to turn 1 from Dennis Lind down the start-finish straight. He goes a whisker under a second clear of Martin Rump. So Rump will be ruining the fact, though his start was equal with the driver on the outside the front row, just didn't quite have the momentum down into turn one. Liberati looking a little bit serious now, right on the tail of Hong Li Ye there. First four starting to stretch out as they pull away, but from Hamaguchi backwards in fifth place, it's very close indeed. They'll come just on a longer shot into the background of the scenery. But at the moment it looks so. Second lap, Martin Rump is starting to wind up the wick, I sense. Seeing if there's anything he can do about race leader Dennis Lind. See what I mean? The middle order, nose to tail, but the first four pulling clear. Past the famous Ferris wheel at the top of the hill. Good to see the Yamano brothers car in the shot there. Good to have them in the mix, the Team EBI Porsche. There it is, car number 33, tucked in behind 30. Is 47. D-Station Racing entry. Satoshi Hoshino, 70 years of experience, but leading the way in the GT4 class. If that is not Otsuka, he's fallen to third in class. It's Lee has got into the lead of the class. The 51 Lamborghini there is being moved out of the way by 81, which is leading the GT4 class, followed through by the car in second, which is number 11, Brian Lee. So Andrew McPherson at the tail end of GT3 getting a bit monstered by cars that he ought to be leaving in his pace. He wants to get back round them. He's been a bit cautious in the early laps, but certainly 81 Kinoshita does not want to be dropped back behind him, but he wants in turn to drop it. Race leader has no such trouble with traffic. Dennis Lind, 19 Lamborghini, 0.985 of a second clear last time around. Has it gone out? Is it coming in? It looks so it's fairly equal. 1.3, he's gained 0.4 of a second. Shea Davis in third place, Marcus Pommer fourth. Then the Ferrari of Lee Hong Yi. And he has now got ahead of Hamaguchi, did that last lap, but Liberati is now pushing Hamaguchi very hard indeed for sixth place. In behind Aditya Patel, the OD Racing Audi driver. And behind him, Sean Thong, last year's Silver Cup champion, back to play this weekend in the car with Alex Jung. That's the number 5 Audi. Completing the top 10, Aidan Reed gained 2 places, started 12th, up to 10 in the second of the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsches. Oh, Liberati, I can sense the frustration. He's stuck behind Hamaguchi, who started well, gained a position. But you really sense there's more speed in the blue-nosed 23 Nissan. The one is not getting past Aditya Patel, the Indian racer, now starting to come on his tail on the red and in the red and blue Audi. And Andrew McPherson has got the AMAC Motorsport GT3 Lamborghini back in front of the best of the GT4 runners, and if he just is sensible, he should pull away. He's got more power to play with, more grip to play with. And who's remembering to play that game called Save Your Tyres? We'll find out soon. Lovely shot as the just shows the speed of the cars, even on the place. If you look on a circuit map, it's a big long curve. This is the entrance to Spoon, and our race leaders, first and second, Lint and Rump, they've been through there, through the compression. They're now on the long straight down to 1:30 hour. Who's had the first part of the tracks gone? First part of the lap went better for Rump, who's chasing. Middle part of the tracks, it's been better by the equivalent margin for our race leader, Dennis Lind. The FFF racing team. Well, Lint and his teammate Kodrich, they've had a pole, they've had 2 second places, a 6th and a 5th, so you'd have to say there's no reason why not in terms of pace. It's such a well-balanced lineup as well. They shouldn't get a 1 on the board. Lamborghinis last year went very well here, and again this year, right at the front end of the field. You have to suggest as fast as Lint is driving, it was down to that brilliant start, along with a determined refusal to back off into the first corner. Martin Rump in this car, the charcoal and blue Audi from Absolute Racing, just eventually had to go, okay, you've beaten me, tuck in behind. But at the moment, he's not quite able to keep up. He's now 1.6 seconds in arrears as they go out onto lap 4. Then there's a bit of a gap. Shea Davis still ahead of Marcus Pommer. It really is good. In recent years, the Porsche hasn't been the class of the field in GT3 racing all the time. And in Blancpain Series Asia this year, it hasn't been the form really at all, but it's coming good. And let's hope the tyres can last, because certainly in qualifying we started to see some pace, but the way these cars can eat their tyres it couldn't be a factor race, it is going to be a factor in this race. So let's hope the drivers, particularly the pros, keep their car as balanced as they possibly can. We don't have someone looking a little bit embarrassed, only up to the fact that halfway through their stint they've finished their tyres off. 81, Kinoshita leading the GT4 class by 1 and a bit seconds. Brian Lee, the number 11 TTR Team Saad, there's a famous team name. His Porsche Cayman running seconds. That's going very well indeed. In fact, it's best run of the year. For BMW Team Studio, we've seen pace before, but normally it's got that 666 Mercedes in behind. And in fact, Rio Hiro Otsuka has dropped to 4th in class. George Chu has made his Porsche Cayman by, has guided it through into 3rd place in the GT4 class. Now AC1 has got another Lamborghini making its way forward. We had the AMEC Motorsport car with Andrew McPherson advancing, and clearly a problem on the opening lap or so for 390, which is a new entry this weekend. Success Racing, Tomotsu Kondo. He should have the pace to get past and drop the GT4 runners, but clearly the opening laps had a couple of them fall back into the grass of the GT4 field. Oh, now that's the team race.win. This has been a class winner earlier in the season, but you don't get wins for spins. So unfortunately for Chong, this guy Ringo Chong, Singapore, he's had to spin, and for the rest of the race it will be catch-up time. So competitive, there isn't a gap for you if you've had a spin. You've got to make your own form after that. The McLaren, 31st and last at the minute for Clearwater Racing, Richard Wee. Now, it looks like a better lap. Half a second gained also on the last lap over the race leader by Martin Rump. Coming good, and it's coming down. First to second, it got as high as 1.6 seconds. 1.1 second last time around. They're halfway around this lap. Oh, we've got a front right puncture. That is presumably why the 77 Craft Bamboo car is dropping to the tail of the field. So for Frank Hugh, first race for them since changing over from a Porsche Cayman, and we saw some punctures this morning, 3 in the space of a couple of minutes, to the extent I thought there was debris on the circuit, but it's the long, slow drive home. How unfortunate for Craft Bamboo Racing. At least their Porsches in the GT3 class are going well. Don't forget, Shea Davis is 3rd at the moment, which should be by far their best race of the year if they could hold on. Now, Otsuka in the Mercedes, number 666, fallen back last time around behind George Chu in the 17 Porsche Cayman, clearly determined to get that position back. All over the back of the Cayman and dives up the inside through the S's. I don't know if there was a spin for 666. You can't have that level of performance advantage and not have had a spin or something to drop you back down the order. So, oh yes, being driven very nicely indeed, really diving deep into the corners. So the Formula 3 convert really getting used to these GT3 cars with some applause. Still 4th, now 3rd in GT4, setting off after number 11, Brian Lee in the Team Saad car, which is just turning into the hairpin. Turning out the hairpin, that's the silver and grey one. Aditya Patel suddenly in the mix, 8th, trying to get past Liberati, who's stuck behind Hamaguchi. Everyone becoming very frustrated. Sean Thong, the back of that pack, kicking up a bit of debris there. And then in 10th place, 5th car in the group, it's the 2nd of the Craft Bamboo Porsches, Aidan Reed. But Hamaguchi is really wrecking the race as those behind. He's driving a very wide Lamborghini while his teammate is chasing down, is leading the race, being chased down by Martin Rump. He is delaying all of those behind, and Liberati just cannot get past. And that is why the line is growing longer and longer, being joined by more and more of the GT3 runners. 2nd of the Nissans is the next in the line, which is Taniguchi, then Juwon Seo in the Indigo Racing Mercedes in behind them. Lamborghini drives a very neutral fashion. And it must be said that Nissan is going better and better, very different sort of car. But it doesn't look terribly well balanced, I must say. Now, where you can see the different points on the circuit where Eduardo Liberati has an advantage, but he's clearly lacked in other places, and that is why he's being so frustrated. Davis in the Porsche, still ahead of German racer Markus Pommer. 6 and a bit seconds down in the race lead, very much having her own battle. Encanta Ferrari behind them, number 27, close in, the red Ferrari, first of the 2 Hub Auto Corsa cars. For Leo Yi Hong Li, already the team starting to talk, think, when are their drivers coming in? Pit window opens at 14:48, so 12 minutes. 12 minutes may not seem much driving time-wise for a lot of these drivers, so they're getting hotter and hotter in the cockpit, particularly those in the heat of battle. See some have little side windows open, certainly Shea Davis has a little bit of ventilation. Of course it makes the cars less aerodynamic, but only by a fraction, and that's balanced against drivers getting too hot, and that does far more damage to their lap time than a little bit of aero disturbance on the side windows. But all along, as these two fight, Dennis Lind, Martin Rump, Paul Clear is under a second between first and second now. Rump is on the charge. All the GT3 runners are now back ahead of all the GT4 runners. Top in GT4 is still Kinoshita, fastest in GT4 for BMW Team Studio, Takayuki Kinoshita. He's going to share with Sunaka Chikochu, who's going better and better this year. Team EBI Porsche could have them on board this weekend. That's the Yamano brothers. Running in 16th place, very much around the point on the grid where it qualified. But right with Alexander Matchell, so that is a good performance, and it shows the experience around Suzuka really, really benefits. First and second, though, coming down 0.93 of a second last time. Looks though another tenth or two has been grabbed by the driver in pursuit, grabbed by the Estonian. That's Martin Rump. 0.934 last time around. I sense on this lap it's been flowing very much. I reckon another tenth, maybe 1.5 seconds, sorry, 0.15 of a second is going to come off that. Just 0.1 of a second, 0.859 is the gap first and second. But then look, the gap behind him only now with the long shot. You see the nose of Shea Davis in the third place Porsche coming into view at the top of the start-finish straight. Ten minutes until the pit window opens. Dennis Lind is really pushing his FFF racing team Lamborghini around with considerable drive. Wow, the tail coming out. Oh, how's that for your tyre life, Martin Rump? But for the Dane leading the race, he knows Lamborghinis. He was European Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion 2 seasons ago. And he crossed over to the Blancpain Endurance Series to race with the Raton team in their Lamborghinis. That was last year. And this year he's doing the championship here and really showing great form. Martin Rump has found another 0.2 of a second. Martin's a driver, like quite a few European drivers in this field and Australian drivers. They've come up and raced in the Asian series the last few years. So also Martin experienced on these circuits. Raced in the Asian Le Mans series, Audi R8 Cup as well, and now we've got one of the Lamborghinis coming in slowly. That's number 19. Race leader, it was a foreshortening shot. Sorry, they're going past the car in last place. That's Richard Weed. Looked a bit slow. It wasn't slow. It was a head-on shot down a very long straight. Of course, that's the run to 130R. With the Audi so close in behind, I couldn't see it. So 19 was all on its own, but 19 not all on its own. Looks as though he's kept it stable. Race leader Dennis Lind, Martin Rump in behind. Martin has gained under a tenth of a second, 0.792 of a second. They've got past the McLaren. I don't think the McLaren actually cost any of the advantage. It's relatively easy to pass. The first two go through turns 1 and 2 in less flamboyant fashion than last time around, so maybe they're getting back on top of their tyres. Ooh, the battle is being rejoined. In GT4, the BMW still in front, but having fallen to 4th in class in the 666 Mercedes, Ryoshiro Otsuka has got going all over again. GT4 Mercedes in front of them, but that's the Craft Bamboo car, though. Don't forget that had to have a pit stop because it limped in with a puncture. So it's not in the mix. Hopefully it'll stay out of their way. Jean-Marc Merlin at the wheel of that. Sorry, Frank Yu at the wheel of that. Jean-Marc Merlin will take over in the second part of the race. Hobbled not in terms of speed, just in terms of having to make a pit stop for a puncture change. With the GT4 battle enthralling, it's great to have BMW right in the mix to challenge the Mercedes dominance. 4 races so far in GT4 in this year's Blancpain GT Series Asia, and 4 Mercedes wins. But the promise that's been shown by BMW Team Studi is being shown all over again. Look how much tighter it is through Spoon Curve. Bit of a mistake there from Otsuka, too deep into the first part of the corner, ran over the curves, had to come off the throttle. That's given a little bit of breathing space to Kinoshita. There's Kinoshita, BMW in the mix. And here come the race-leading cars to come and challenge the quicker GT4 cars. Number 11 has just been passed. That's Brian Lee, very easily by Martin Rump in 2nd place overall. I actually sense that Martin hasn't done as well in traffic this time around. Yes, I think first and second the gap is going to go out. 0.792 of a second last time around. 1.396 this, so he almost doubled the advantage, our race leader, weaving his way through the traffic here. But now he's going to be slightly blocked by the Craft Bamboo Mercedes. No, he isn't. And again, Rump is the one who loses that. He's got 3 GT4 cars in front of him as he approaches the S's. Not good. And he can't get his way through them. One's already driven off the track. That's the Craft Bamboo car. But Otsuka, challenging for class lead, has really thoroughly obstructed Martin Rump there. And there's been contact with Hamaguchi. You can see the second of the Lamborghinis has had a clash, possibly with Eduardo Liberati. The bodywork is rubbing on a tyre. They've been so close for so long. And it looks as though Aidan Reed has got through. Liberati hasn't, Aidan Reed has, Thong hasn't. So I want to see the front right-hand corner of the 23 Nissan. Has he got the damage? Did he clip the 63 car of Hiroshi Hamaguchi? I can't tell you that. Maybe Aidan Reed did on his way through, but certainly the Porsche's moved up a few positions. Will that tyre last? The 991 car, you can see, has made its way through. He's done what Hamaguchi wouldn't allow Liberati to do, still won't allow Liberati to do, because Liberati and Nissan is tucked in behind him. It's now Taniguchi, sorry, the Nissan. And I was just looking on the timing screens for 23, because I suddenly realised it was the 18 Nissan I was looking at, not the 23. The 23 is limping home. White wave flag, slow car on the circuit. So the car that was challenging Hamaguchi for 6th is limping in, shaking and quaking its way down the long run in. So that must have had the contact. Where's his, which tyre is punctured? Looks like suspension damage as much as anything else. So having been stuck, you can see, yeah, the front right-hand corner has clattered the left rear-hand corner, presumably of the Lamborghini, and the frustration must have got too much there for Liberati. He's dropping down outside the top 20 and effectively totally out of the running. And in among all of that, Otsuka's has got past into the lead of GT4 and 666, the BMW Kinoshita already dropping back behind him. So it's been a sudden shakeout. Let me just read you down the order. It's Dennis Lin from Martin Rump, as we've seen at the front field. Davis and Palmer, they haven't changed. Yi still in 5th, but Aditya Patel up into 6th. After that sort out between Hamaguchi and Liberati. Suddenly into 6th place goes Patel. Aidan Reed up to 7th. Taniguchi in what was the second of the Nissans up to 8th. Sean Thong lost a bit of ground. He stays 9th. And for now, Hamaguchi's in 10th place, but as you can see, Ju-Won Seo's challenging in the Mercedes. Have they clashed again? This is an opportunity for the car tucked in behind Seo, which is Andrew Kim to see what he can do. No, it's Anthony Liu now in number... Oh, they're all getting very close indeed. 37 is Anthony Liu. He's about to run out of the circuit, as he does, trying to go around Hamaguchi. Hasn't worked for him. Wow, sudden flurry of craziness out on the track. For Hamaguchi, slowing and slowing and slowing. In that number 63 Lamborghini. Was there any damage to the tyre as well? Hasn't gone down, hasn't deflated. Car number 77 has got a drive-through penalty for contact at T11. It also was under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Car 77 is Frank Hughes, Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, that came in with a puncture, don't forget, earlier in the race. That's a GT4. Battle for third place. Shea Davis ahead of Marcus Pommer. Porsche 63. Oh, with Hamaguchi has finally gone off the circuit. He was the one limping around with the bodywork rubbing. And now it's gone down. Eventually the bodywork cut the tyre. I think that's up at Spoon. It's the infield at Spoon. So that's going to be a long, slow limp in doing... this is the big worry. Once the tyre gets a cut, it can start to come off the rim and flail around and rip all the insides of a wheel arch off. And it looks as though, unfortunately, Hamaguchi couldn't quite make it to the pit window opening, which is in about 2 minutes' time. And unfortunately, those further laps meant the sister car to this car, the race leader, Dennis Lind's car, is out of the running. The last few laps have been very, very kind indeed. We saw Dennis Lind doing well in traffic and Martin Rupp having a horrid time. 4.1 seconds is the race leader's advantage. Don't forget, it got down to about 0.7 of a second and stayed there until they hit traffic. And then everything went in the way of Martin Rupp. GT3 AM class runners, led by the ARN Racing entry, which is Hideki Nagai. So new crews this weekend for that crew, and it's working well. Kei Cozzolino down waiting to take over the car and guy or Lamborghini from his teammate at the moment. Teammate Kimura running down in 19th place. At this point in the race, when the GT3 field starts to put a lap on the GT4s, they really, really have to be on the top of their game. GT4 runners in a class of their own, running in a race of their own in so many ways, but it's vital not to lose time alongside them. 5th place runner, Hong Li in the Ferrari, putting a lap on the 390 in this weekend. Kondo's Lamborghini, run by the Success Racing team. But the pit window is now open. And already we get the first few runners coming in to make their stops. And we have Marcus Pommer has come in from 4th place in his Mercedes. Hong Li Ye has come in. Aidan Reed, Aidan Reed stays out. Aditya Patel comes in. But the top 3 runners have stayed out. That's the Lamborghini of Dennis Lind, the Audi of Martin Rupp, who gained half a second back last time around, and Shea Davis in the Porsche. Pommer listed as 4th, but he's the first of those runners to make a pit stop. So Frank Hugh listed as last, drive-through penalty to add to the puncture for the 77 Mercedes. But of the front-running crew, Aditya Patel got up to 6th place, handing over to Mitch Gilbert. There's Aditya with the yellow helmet. He's out and his job is done for today for OD Racing. Down on the ground, there's a minimum pit stop time, so they finish the pit stop, but they have to wait until the car has completed the time at which it has to be at a standstill. And then only when that is done should the car be waved out. If it goes before, there'll be a drive-through penalty or a long time added to their race, elapsed time at the end of the race. 63 Lamborghini, don't forget that's just emerging from the pits, but that's the one that had the tyre go down, the puncture that had it off the circuit. Unfortunately, 999, which is Marcus Pommer's car, handed over to his teammate Patrick Niederhauser, but it stayed just ahead of the red, a white Ferrari behind, and that's the car that came in from behind, number 27, Hong Li Ye, handing over to Nick Foster. And that's the car that's starting tomorrow's race from pole, so it's a good pairing. Marco Mapelli has taken over, but that slow lap in, is there any bodywork damage? Back right-hand, left-hand corner? Yeah, just a little bit. See a slight crimp from where it had the contact with Liberati's Nissan. Kay Cozzolino, we heard from him before the race, loves racing on what he considers his home circuit. He'll be taking over the Car Guy racing Lamborghini, that bright yellowy green one, fantastic looking car. You can see it glowing as it leaves the pits in the background. The 888 Mercedes, Alexander Matchell was driving around 12th position, 14th position. It's emerged in about 15th position now with Raffaele Marciello at the wheel. Yes, that Raffaele Marciello. Look out for a charge. Lintz and Rump, first and second, 4 seconds between them. They have decided to go for the longest stint they can. They've stayed out for a further lap, but Shea Davis has brought the 911 Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche in from third. Yes, reiterate, great run from Shea Davis. Now handing over to tie racer Sandy Stubik. If they can get a podium, that will put probably the first smile of the year on the face. Real solid smile for the Craft Bamboo Racing crew. Delighted their cars are living up to what they hoped to be their form before the season, but the form is coming their way, certainly here at Suzuka. Time seems to be a little bit jumbled for the next few laps. 82, not really in the overall reckoning. He's up to 5th in class, Kenny Rata, but not all the runners, his rivals, have made their pit stops. So once they've done, I think we'll see that car that was running down towards the tail of the field lose a little bit of the ground. So who are the winners, who are the losers? The number 5 Audi going hard over the curbs. It's now Alex Young has just taken that up. But Dennis Lynn almost blocked on his way in. So race leader into the pits. He had a 4-second advantage. 1 point, it was down to 0.6 of a second. He worked the traffic best, and unfortunately for the chaser, Martin Rump, who I think has possibly stayed out for one further lap. Yes, he has. The last 2 laps have been very unkind. It cost him about 3 seconds. Good thing no one was standing right in front of the board as Dennis Lynn braked very late for his pit stop. But what a well-balanced driver pairing, because Martin Kodrich next on board. It really is not about the ultimate pace of your best driver, it's about the average, the combined pace of your drivers, if you want to really shine in this championship in the professional class. So, Martin Kodrich just been with Lamborghinis for a very long time. Great job. So let's have a little replay of something that's not in the textbook of how to stop for your pit stop. Slightly unsighted by the team EBI Porsche, pulling out across its path, left the braking too late, but that's why you have a marker board, so someone can pick it up. No damage done, no damage to the nose of the car. The 19 car waiting for Dennis Lynn's co-driver, his teammate Martin Kodrich, to take it over. Martin's on board, waiting to be given the signal to leave the pit stop when their time at a standstill is completed. 9-11 Sandy Stubik, pit stop completed. Car 63 though behind him, but also way further behind after that puncture and the slow run into the pits. Marco Mapelli's at the wheel of 63, down in 27th position at the moment though. In a car capable of really running in the top 6 any time on its form at Suzuka. 19, Kodrich just out of the pits, and not that far ahead of Marco Mapelli in the sister car. But Marco, don't forget, is a lap down after its slow limp in. But let's go down to the pit lane, because the driver who made that brilliant start led all the way up to the pit stop, Susan Clare, who's talking to Dennis Lind.
Okay, we have with us number car 19, Lind. Lind, what a phenomenal drive. You maintained the lead just now. I could see in your face your expression. How was your pace out there?
I was really, really happy. I had a little bit hard time. I had a little hard time catching or getting away from Martin, but as soon as we got to the traffic, I knew I had a bit of an overlap, and I just tried to build on that, and it seemed to work out really well. We had a really good gap when I came in the pits, I feel.
Yeah, so do you have a lot of confidence in the next part of the race moving on?
Yeah, sure. Martin, he knows how to handle himself for sure. We have some fresh rubber in there, so I'm sure he's going to pull out a mega job. Unfortunately, we have a 10-second penalty because we finished second in Chang, so we are a bit behind in that aspect, but I'm sure we can pull off a podium.
Okay, nothing stopping you. Thank you very much, Lind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a factor in the Blancpain GT Series. Success can mean time penalties. If you win a race, you have to be at a standstill for an extra 15 seconds in a pit stop. Second place means 10 extra seconds. And that's why the pit stop looks so long. Gives a little stir of the pot, gets carried over to the next race, and it's good of Dennis to explain that to us. So really, no pressure at all on his teammate, but for Martin Kodric, here is Kodric. He's just got to press on and try and claw that back. It's an extra 10 seconds would ruin most people's races, but their form has been good. Oh, a big twitch there for the Indigo Racing. Mercedes roll off. Bruins has just taken that over, and really in the thick of the traffic. Car number, oh dear, we just heard from Dennis Lind, car number 19. We knew they had the 10 extra seconds penalty at a pit stop, and their pit stop is now under investigation. I don't think it was necessarily for clonking that marker board. That seemed sort of okay for me. Haven't got time to read through the entire rule book, but a race that looked to be very much theirs, even with the 10-second penalty. That should put them in the challenging for a podium. And maybe further clouds hanging over their heads, so I'll let you know as soon as I see any further messages on screen. It's off my screen now, so maybe the problem has been sorted already. But I never like. And here comes Martin Rump in from the lead of the race. Don't forget, he was second, 4 seconds down on the 19 Lamborghini. But because they haven't had a top finish recently, they're not sitting on big time penalties. They have they had a time penalty in the last race because they finished third in the first of the races at Chang, but they were fifth in the second race. And so they shouldn't have any chunky extra time at a standstill. So that necessarily should have put them back out about 5 or 6 seconds clear of the 19 Lamborghini. Let's wait and see. Good solid stint from Rump, but he'll have been frustrated that pole position didn't translate into the lead down into turn 1. He had to let the 19 Lamborghini with Dennis Lind on board go around the outside. Really, it was better to back off than suffer any front-end damage and trying to joust it out. So a mature decision, but that's from a crew that have been scoring points in every round, and that's why. Pit window is still open, but the last of the cars now leaving. In fact, pit window just closed. It doesn't matter as long as they were into the pits before the pit window closed. You can still see some cars in the pit lane. The second of the Craft Bamboo Porsches. And in the background, the Clearwater Racing McLaren. Just looking for winners and losers. Person who's on the move is Nick Foster in the 27 Ferrari, all over the back of Martin Kodric, clouting curves as he does so through the S's. In behind is the second FFF Racing entry, number 63, but don't forget that limp tone. The Huracan limped back to the pits when Hamaguchi first of all had bodily contact. That led to a puncture, that led to the car off at the side of the circuit, and then a long limp home to the pit. So that is really out of the points running for sure. Frankie Cheng though on his out lap. Lights are flashing. Nobody in the GT3 car wants to lose any ground getting around a GT4 car. Would have preferred to be up the inside. The driver has just taken over number 11, Tony Fong, not being enormously helpful there, unfortunately. So for Frankie Cheng Kung Fu, he won't want to lose any more time in traffic. He should be in the lead of this race. In fact, I'm just waiting to everybody to meld. Darrell Young is second, Sandy Stuvik is third. So we've got the two Porsches from Craft Bamboo Racing having the best race of their season by some old margin. But I think the Oh Young position, sorry, I've jumped to the gun there, is going to be slightly artificial, because that was in the pit lane that was timed. Across the start-finish line, but it's on its out lap, so that won't benefit. But now, Aditya Patel has handed over the 86 Audi for Audi Racing to Mitch Gilbert. Mitch is having a battle out there. Number 18, Nissan from KCMG, now in the hands of Alexander Imperatori, and he's looking very, very feisty, pushy. Frankie Cheng being challenged. Does it work around the outside? Ooh, turn 1, turn 2 difficult. The 81 BMW is up at the front end, leading the GT4 class. But it's the cars behind fighting over the lead of the race I want to see. So Mitch Gilbert's keeping Imperatori behind him at the moment. But here's the battle. 9-11, Sandy Stuvik right on the tail of Frankie Cheng. This is the battle for the lead of the race. For Stuvik will have his tail up big time here. Craft Bamboo Racing Team. So far, Stuvik and Shay Davis have finished 10th, 12th, 11th and 8th. This is another planet. Well, there is the battle. Messages going out to the drivers. For Shay Davis, 4th became 3rd, 3rd became 2nd, and 2nd could become 1st because Frankie Cheng is just in front. We're dealing a 1/4 of a second between them at the moment. So well done for Claire for getting down to speak to Shay Davis. He'll be very pleased with life indeed. Just to reiterate, they haven't had the most garlanded of seasons. 10th, 12th, 11th and 8th, and now they're fighting for the lead of the race as they go down the slope. Martin Kodrich is in 3rd position. In behind, only another 1.8 seconds down in 3rd place in the Lamborghini. You can see it in the background of the shot, in behind Nick Foster. So you've got the first 4 covered by 3.5 seconds. The first 5 with Patrick Niederhauser. Only 4 seconds cover the top 5. So Cheng Stuvik, Kodrich, Foster, Niederhauser and Mitch Gilbert up to 6th place. But he's about a dozen seconds down on Niederhauser. So again, this wonderful mix of cars at the front of the field. It's Audi leading from Porsche, from Lamborghini, from Ferrari and Mercedes. 5 makes the top 5 positions. Looks like Frankie Cheng is settling down. The 991 Porsche, Darrell O'Young, fleeting, it looks as though it's up in 3rd place, but that was because he was on his out lap. And he's dropped back down to 8th, but still going forwards. This car started 12th, so positions gained. That's very positive for Craft Bamboo Racing. Alex Young tucked in behind Darrell O'Young. O'Young from Young. Young in the Audi. And in behind him, Rolf Bruins in the Indigo Racing Mercedes. So again, for the 991 crew. So let's go down and hear a little bit more from the pits, from Shay Davis.
All right, with us, we've got Shay Davis in the Porsche. Qualified 4th, came in 3rd. Shay, tell us about the tyre situation out there.
Yeah, no, look, a lot of deck here at Suzuka. It's actually really challenging. We had a really good car for qualifying, but it was a little bit nervous, so we had to make a change and try and dial some understeer into the car. It worked, but we went too far. But so we tuned it up for Sandy. He's running in 2nd now. Hopefully it'll be good. And I was really happy with my stint. Started 4th, as you said. Held it around the outside of 2 and made it stick for 3 and held 3rd for the rest of the stint. So really happy. Like I said, gave the car a little tune-up and hopefully he can bring it home.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Shay, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much, Claire. And Australian for degradation is deg. That's a little translation there, but really, really good stint there from Shay Davis. But degradation will be the talk of the paddock after this race. Anybody pushes too hard too soon, and they'll leave themselves with round black things that aren't offering the grip that they will require. Their times will really, really drop away. And I must say, at this point in the race, Frankie Cheng is looking very well balanced for Absolute Racing in the lead of this race. And if the car looks as though it's fairly well settled, it's not lurching or leering from side to side, not got understeer, not got oversteer, then it's going to be sweet on its tyres. And the Audi R8s have always very much had that in their favour. Just the very nature of their setup. And for Frankie Cheng and the Absolute crew, their best result so far was the 3rd place in the first of the 2 races at Buriram, followed by a 5th in the 2nd race. So definitely their season coming on very strong. Likewise, the 81 BMW team Studi entry handed over from Takuyuki Kinoshita to Sunaku Jukochu. Sunaku's taken it over, leading the class. Oh, someone's put a bit of dust up in the air there. Was it someone braking very heavily? But certainly, whenever you get a puff, you wonder what has happened. There's Ben Porter moving back ahead after his pit stop. He's in the AMAC Lamborghini. First to second, it's got down to 1/4 of a second with his last few laps, last couple of laps in particular, being very kind to the race leader. He's now 1.4 seconds clear. 3rd place is Martin Cottridge. You can see him in the black and green Lamborghini right behind Nick Foster, another Australian racer, in one of the 2 Hub Auto Corsa Ferraris, getting a bit frustrated because he can't get past. And Patrick Niederhauser in the 999 Mercedes tucked in behind as well. So got to be careful. Foster has one little slip up, trying to go past Cottridge's Lamborghini. Could lead him opening the door for the Mercedes driver to Niederhauser, the driver with 2 wins under his belt this year. Of course, what we don't know at this point in the race is if Sandy Stubik is just being careful on his tyres, trying to keep them good for the end of his stint, but he's falling away off the tail. It's nearly 1.5 seconds down on Frankie Cheng. There's Frankie going one more time. In fact, the 21st time the car's been through here at racing pace. He ran 2nd in the first half of the race. Got very close to, but not past the race-leading 19, the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini then had 10 extra seconds at a standstill in the pits. If it wasn't for that, it would be leading the race. But it isn't. There it is. 3rd in this grouping. 4th is Nick Foster, the red and white Ferrari. 5th, Patrick Niederhauser in the Group M Racing Mercedes. Don't forget, the Group M Racing Mercedes have won all 4 races so far, but it's going to look as though it's one beyond them. They're at Suzuka today. They won both races at Sepang and both races at the Chang International Circuit around in Thailand. Importantly, though, not all the same driver doing the winning. Patrick Niederhauser has 2 wins, but the rest is spread around the crew, with Maxi Boot coming on last weekend to take one of those. Car 17 drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's Taiwan Top Speed Racing, and likewise car number 77, Craft Bamboo Racing car. That came in for a pit stop. That's good. There they go. They've served their drive-through penalties. And dropped down the GT4 order. But the rule is a rule. Must be adhered to. Station Racing, Porsche still charging around out there, car number 47, down in 16th place, however. This is a bit further up the order, it's Mitch Gilbert, 86, just ahead of 18, Alexander Imperatori. Oh, the Swiss driver's got a better run down, he's got into the turn, going down to turn 1, he's been shown if you're going to come round, you have to go around, i.e. on the outside, but first to do that you have to be braver than me. I'm on the inside, I can brake later than you can, you've got a longer run, but hasn't worked, because it looks as though around the outside has come off, so I didn't get that all right from Mitch Gilbert, and certainly a lot of bravery from Imperatori in the number 18 Nissan. Round he goes round the outside, up to 6th place. And now in front of Gilbert, you can see how the Nissan is able to carry just so much more speed up the hill. Just looking to see if there's any problem for Mitch Gilbert. None I can see. I just wonder if there'd been a bit of contact. There might have been a deflating tyre. Can't see it. I think it was a clean and proper move from Imperatori. So he goes from 7th to 6th. And Gilbert, unfortunately, 6th to 7th. And it's good to see while the drivers are out there getting hot and flustered in the garages, that was ARN Racing and just working out where to use their aircon, whose trousers to spray it up. It's a hot and humid day at Suzuka, and any bit of coolness is going to be incredibly welcome. Some pessimists talk of the possibility of rain. There is no rain here yet today. Great little battle though. This is Seydiara, the driver who's won Le Mans for 24 hours, out here playing and loving the GT3 cars. He's in the Porsche. Tucked in behind we have a driver new to the Ferrari team, Shinji Takai for ARN Racing. And stuck in behind them is Shirosaka, who's the second car in the AM class, because Takai in that number 8 Ferrari is leading the AM category, but not by much, as you can see. Shirosaka right on his tail. Shirosaka doesn't know what it is to lose a race in GT4 yet, in GT3 AM yet this year. 4 races, 4 wins in class. Today the battle is bigger, that's for sure. Nick Foster pushing Martin Kodric very hard indeed for third in the race. Very, very hard. The 27 Hub Auto course, the Ferrari, the car that Nick qualified on pole for tomorrow's race, really, really wants to get past. Particularly, he's got Patrick Niederhauser never more than a second or so behind him in what would be 5th place overall. But you can see Foster just desperately needs to get past Lind. Sorry, not Lind, of course, it's Kodric. Martin Kodric taken over from Dennis Lind in that 19 Lamborghini. It must be said, it doesn't seem as though Kodric has the pace. With all these cars, their tyres are a little less good than they were early in the stints, and some of the drivers had slightly limited qualifying time. Well, qualifying time, official practice time this morning. And if you lose track practice time, you lose the ability to understand how to best treat your tyres, to keep life in them. 10 and a bit minutes remaining in this race, the first of 2 at Suzuka. It's Frankie Chen Kong Fu leading the way in the number 3 Absolute Racing Audi, started by Martin Rook. Sandy Stuvik running second in his Craft Bamboo Porsche, and then Martin Kodric third in his Lamborghini. In this Lamborghini, the black and green one, just ahead of Nick Foster's Ferrari, and in behind the Mercedes number 999. You'll see it in a slightly bigger shot. Wait for it. There it is in the background with the red stripe. That is in 5th place overall. Then they've got a big advantage, nearly 15 seconds over Alex Imperatori in his Nissan. Getting close at Suzuka is one thing, and you can hardly get any closer than Nick Foster is, but finding a way past is very tricky, most notably here at the S's. You've just got to bide your time. Number 28 Ferrari, Tim Slade, trying to get the car up the order. He's running at the pace of the leaders, but he's way down in 17. The 2 brothers, the Yamano brothers, car number 33, that is just a where is it, 15th overall, running sort of on its own at the moment. Be interesting to compare the fastest lap splits of driver 1 and driver 2. Brother 1 and brother 2. It's Naoya Yamana at the wheel at the moment. Drive through, stop and go penalty for 991. Don't worry, that was the less well placed of the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsches. Stop and go penalty, but the engine is off. They're looking at something under the car. Oh dear, dear, dear. So that's suddenly gone tumbling down the order from the tail end to the top end. Darrell Young has damaged the back rear corner, the rear right corner of that car. It's been hit up the back, the splitter is damaged. Has he also had a little spin to do that? No, it's also been rammed from behind. Oh dear. Luckily for the team, Sandy Stuvik is running in 2nd place overall. The D-Station Porsche, nothing to do with the Craft Bamboo team, but that's at least out on the track. And car 37, well, we now know who did the damage, because 37, which is Josh Burden, has clearly hit the back of the 991 Porsche. That's why Darrell Young came in with rear-end damage. So 2 cars in a battle at the tail end of the top 10 have clearly come to blows. Number 11 cars coming for a stop-and-go penalty. GT4 runner in the background, but So it wasn't just a stop-and-go penalty, it was a stop-and-go penalty, and bring your damage in with you. You can see the rear damage on the 991 Porsche. Looks like it's going to be swung round into the pit garage and out of the race. And when one car has rear-end damage and another comes in with frontal damage, you can sort of work out what may have happened. The 37 Audi, which is up on jacks in the background, another car being swung round into its garage beyond. But luckily, not the number 3 Audi for Absolute Racing. Their 37 car in the wars, but the number 3 car leading the way. Frankie Cheng, 1.5 seconds clear now of Sandy Stuvik. And Martin Kodrich, third in the car that had the extra 10-second penalty at its pit stop. So it wasn't just the 37 Audi that was damaged for Absolute Racing, the number 7 as well. Adelie Fong had just taken that over. So what we're suddenly seeing is a few people moving up the order, moving into the tail end of the top 10. To himself that Roloff Bruins, the Indigo Racing Mercedes, up to 10th, up to 9th is Raffaele Marcello, and he's chasing down Alex Jung in the number 5 Audi. But our race leader, Frankie Chen Kong Fu, here he is in the number 3 car, 6.5 minutes remaining, 1.5 second lead. But then another 3 seconds back to Martin Kodrich in the Lamborghini in third. And car 81 started by Kinoshita, now with Sunako Chikuchu leading the GT4 class, and margin of advantage 8.6 seconds over Reinhold Renger. So any win is a good win in GT4, but if you can do it over a driver whose car has won 3 of the 4 races so far, then you really, really, like BMW Team Studi, are laying down your marker. Frankie Chen Kong Fu, 1.5 seconds clear last time around. 1.8 seconds this time around. Third place you can see behind the Lamborghini, Martin Kodrich. Nick Foster, you can hardly see his red Ferrari tucked under the rear wing. 5th place, Patrick Niederhauser. And then really quite a gap back to Alexandre Imperatori, who is now 6th in his KCNG Nissan. 13.5 seconds Imperatori is down on Niederhauser. Leading car in the Pro-Am class is Imperatori in that number 18 Nissan. Leading car in the GT3 Am class is Takai, the number 8 Ferrari, up to 14th. They've all risen. Mitch Gilbert running in 7th place. How are his lap times bearing up? Oh, he's not lapping really at the same pace as those in front of him at the moment. So I don't know why he had a slightly slower lap. May well be that the tyres on that car are really starting to go. I said you get to the point where they, use the phrase, drop off a cliff, and it could well be. His last lap was about 3 seconds off the ultimate pace. 3 and a bit seconds off the car's own fastest pace. All the teams having their cars slower than their ultimate at this point in the race. The closing points, they knew their tyres would be hanging on for dear life. And for some of them, they clearly are. .888 Mercedes getting closer and closer and closer to Alex Jung. Chasing it down for 8th place in the class. Here's the battle there, fleetingly, was the battle for GT3 Am. It was Takai from Shirataka. Third through to 5th. Kodrich, Foster in the Ferrari, just out of shot. Patrick Niederhauser starting to run out of time to make their moves. 3rd, 4th and 5th, but they're staying in that order for yet another lap. 1st to 2nd, getting towards the end of the race. 2.2 seconds clear. Each lap, just a bit more of an advantage. Pulled out by Frankie Cheng. The shot for Sandy Stuvik was fired very early, got right onto his tail. And in the garages, they're looking at the big screens, wondering how well their cars are doing. In their case, their car is 5th in class. The Team iRace.win. The 81 Team Studi BMW, 23rd overall, leading GT4, and just seems to have everything under control. This would be a real accolade if BMW Team Studi take the win that looks to be coming their way. They'd like to do it anywhere, but to do it home ground at Suzuka and have their car on pole for the GT4 class for Sunday's race means they should be very, very happy indeed. In fact, I might nip down to the garage after the race to join in the celebration. Now, a lot of the runners in the fields will be coming back here at the end of August, the 24th to 26th of August, the Suzuka 10 Hours. And for all of the Japanese-based teams, they're coming to play the number 3 Audi that's leading the race. This car, Frankie Chen Kong Fu, building on the work of Martin Rump, that's down for the 10 Hours. We've seen the 8 ARN Racing Ferrari, that's down for the 10 Hours. D-Station Porsche, green one, we've seen that in the middle of the pack, and also the Group M 888 Mercedes is coming to play. Not the car we see on the left of the screen, that's its GT4 runner. But great to have a lot of these drivers coming back for more when the Intercontinental GT Challenge comes to town. Frankie Cheng Kong Fu, 2.2 seconds clear, goes on to what will be the penultimate lap. No, in fact, 1 minute 40. This should be the final lap. His advantage is stretched out to 2.6 seconds exactly. Looks though Martin Kodrich will bring the Lamborghini number 19 home in third place. Just Nick Foster close behind him, but just hasn't been able to make a challenge. So unless Nick has kept something up his sleeve, prepared to be used once and once only on the final lap, it looks like he's going to stay in fourth place. GT4 leader pulls out of the way, or just about shapes up to do so for the race leader, the GT3 front runner. A minute to go on the clock. Round the outside to the Degners. The move is pulled off deep into the compression by hitting the curb on the inside, but luckily 81 stayed largely out of the way. Sandy Stuvik in that 911 Porsche. Number 911 getting closer and closer this lap. He's had a better lap through the traffic. 81 slightly delayed on this, the final lap. Slightly delayed the race leader, but Frankie Chen Kong Fu's been around the block enough times to know when and when not to take a risk. This is the final lap. He doesn't want to risk the chance of a first win this year running through his fingers. And it looks like he's done everything he needs to do. Through Spoon for the final time. Doesn't have to be flamboyant. Doesn't have to take a risk out over the curbs. And for Absolute Racing, they put 2 of their 3 Audis into the pit garage in this race, having hit problems. And it seems as though you only need one car to win a race, and their car is the one at the front of the field. The remaining car, here it is, number 3, down to the Casio Triangle for the final time. Sandy Stuvik will be delighted with second place, but he's got close, but it won't be enough because the number 3 car, Frankie Chen Kong Fu, around a really wide line. An arc described around the final corner. He'll go up towards the pit wall, towards the checkered flag. And there it is, the flag is waved, and the first win this year for Absolute Racing. They'll be over the moon with that one. But likewise, Craft Bamboo Racing, it's been slim pickings for them. But for Shay Davis and Sandy Stuvik, congratulations, second place. Third place went to the number 19 Lamborghini of Kodrich. Fourth place to Nick Foster, he failed to get past. Niederhauser Imperatori 5th and 6th, and waiting for Mitch Gilbert to come home in 7th place. Or will it be Raffaele Marciello? No, Marciello was too far back. But victory there for Martin Rump and Frankie Chen Kong Fu. Number 19, had it not been for the extra 10 second, so they had to be at a standstill in their pit stop, the race would have been theirs. Brilliant opening stint by Dennis Lind and brought home by Martin Kodrich, but it's like success ballots, if you will. Part of the championship rules, and it certainly keeps things very spiced up indeed. But just looking back at that race, we have fantastic first win of the season for the number 3 Audi. And the other class wins, Pro-Am wins, went to Imperatori in 6th place. So that was a good run for him on his first outing in the championship. And the AM eventually went to the... Well, it happened again. It didn't go to the ARN Racing Ferrari because it got flipped over, and the 45 KCMG crew has taken the AM honours, came through late on. So they took victory in that class. So well done them. And GT4 did not go to Group M Racing Mercedes. Didn't go for a Mercedes for the first time. It's finally with the BMW outfits. And Team Studi with their 81 entry, winning that in 20th place overall. And the top place, Group M Racing Mercedes in the top class, was 5th place overall, Patrick Niederhauser. So it shows how times have changed. We like them to change. Keeps everybody on their toes. So with that late change, victory in the AM class, just to reiterate, going to the KCMG Audi crew. But it was an overall victory that counted for the Absolute Racing Audi crew, and that went to Martin Rump. And the driver bringing it home now, just about to turn into the pits, Frankie Chen Kung Fu. So a job very well done by Absolute Racing, but the sister cars didn't really feature at the sharp end. We saw 37 pushed into the garage with damage, but the team have rushed up to the top of the pit lane, to the Parc Fermé beneath the podium, to applaud their man there, Frankie Chen Kung Fu. Can't wait to see his face, but Martin Rump will be running into picture soon to go and show his delight. Yeah. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Just get straight in there and tell him what's what, but looks like we're going to have an interview very shortly with Martin Rump, who's out of the car, waiting for Frankie Chen Kung Fu to remove his helmet, but good to see the top 3 finishers down there, and I can't wait to see the faces of the Craft Bamboo Racing crew, because their season has really turned around here at Suzuka with that 2nd place. You can see, congratulations. But let's go down very shortly indeed to hear from Claire, who's down there with the winning combination of drivers. Martin Rump, who's just pulling up his overalls to look attractive. Let's go down now to hear from our race winners with Claire.
All right, we've got these guys, winners of the GT3 category, Frankie Chang and Martin Rump. Let's break it down. Congratulations. How was the pit stop changeover?
Oh, it was very close, and I think Frankie executed perfectly his 2nd stint, and I'm happy to see him here, man.
Frankie, I can say it all over your face right now.
Thank you.
What is going on? You led quite a fair bit of the way there.
Well, to be honest, this week, Martin has been driving really, really well, I must say. And I mean, giving me the car in such good positions, and it's a big effort by him. And also by the team. And, you know, we have been... Beginning of the season, I've been really looking forward to this, because having Martin next to me, the good, strong drivers, I think we will be very competitive. But first 2 race weekends, somehow it wasn't our turn, but coming to Suzuka, and finally we made it. And big thanks to the team, and next race, and we will focus on.
Well, you guys have set the bar. That means tomorrow. What are your expectations, Martin?
We're just trying to be as good as we can, and, you know, just be in the championship run.
Fantastic. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Frankie. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well done. That was a very quick dive in there for the interview. Well done, Claire. But for Martin Rump, he set the ball rolling and then handed over to Frankie Chen Kung Fu. And don't forget, it's a close challenge. We had Sandy Stuvik right on his tail. By the end of the race, he stretched it out again, could back off in the final lap, and eventually won by 0.87 of a second. You can see the tie race and Sandy Stuvik in the background, getting by far the best result of the season. 2nd place for Craft Bamboo Racing, just under a second down at the end, but it was a real case of Frankie Cheng doing exactly what he needed to do. But Martin Rump, really strong first stint in the race. Well done, the team. Don't forget, the team that finished in 3rd suffered from having that 10-second penalty. But we wanted to hear from Craft Bamboo Racing. Let's go down. They're with Claire.
Fantastic, guys. Sandy and, of course, Shay. Amazing P2. Was this better than what you thought it would be, the result?
I think it was a bit. We were hoping for some rain today, but that didn't come. But we still managed to get on the podium in the dry, and I'm super happy about that.
Now, we talked a little bit about the tyre situation early on, Shay. I mean, how do you think he held up passing on the car?
Oh, I think he did amazing. You know, I spoke to my engineer on the radio before Sandy got in, and like I said, we made a couple of changes, and Sandy was just rock solid. I don't think I saw a lap that was more than a second away. Most of them half a second. It was just a mega stint. Thank you, man. It was an awesome team effort, and really, really happy.
Congratulations, guys. Phenomenal drive.
I said they'd be happy, and they didn't disappoint. You can see the delight. Job well done. And they were speaking before the race about they thought their only hope was for a rain shower during the race. That didn't come, and they must be delighted that they managed to sort the car so that it didn't chew its tyres up too quickly and was still competitive at the end. So by far their best result of the season. Their best result until now was an 8th place last time out. So it's a quantum leap for Porsche and Craft Bamboo Racing. 3rd place with that 10 seconds extra standing still at the pit stop. Marcin Kodrich brought it home. Dennis Lind, what a stint from him to lead the race and pull clear. Was really strong in traffic. But really that 10-second success penalty, if you will, they won't have that for the next race. They'll have a smaller one. They'll still get the 5-second penalty because they were 3rd here today. But it was a fantastic drive. In the end, only 2.5 seconds down on the race leader. So without the 10 seconds extra at pit stop, you can imagine, do the maths, they'd have been in front. But their first win surely isn't that far away from the FFF racing team. But for Marcin Kodrich and Dennis Lind, with 2 second places already to their name, that 3rd place today, along with 2 other points finishes, puts them in such a strong position. Consistency really, really is key in GT racing. But let's go down and join the GT4 winners, because 20th place overall, the 81 BMW, Takayuki Kinoshita and Sunako Jukuchu.
Excellent drive. Congratulations, guys. What does it feel like to win on your home turf, Japan?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Japanese. We are a Japanese champion team. It is our hometown, and so it is first win. It is a long-wanted dream for me. I never forget today. Thank you.
It looks like you're about to cry there. What about you?
Thank you, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you so much, and thank you for team staff, SRO, every sponsor. Thank you very much. I think so. Very happy, but so too late for us win.
Well, it looks like you guys didn't even break a sweat. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, a very emotional crew. Great to see the other 2 drivers from the sister car wanting to get into the shot as well, because it really means a huge amount. And when a driver says he will always remember this race, victory on home ground in a Japanese team on a Japanese circuit, that is why they came here to Suzuka. But they're doing the whole championship, so they might be able to make it a double header if they can carry on and do the same in 3 weeks' time at Fuji. But don't forget, they've got another race tomorrow, and they're on class pole for that. So it's looking very good indeed here at Suzuka. They've obviously worked out how to get their car balanced, keep the tyres sweet. And the gold standard until now was the Group M Racing Mercedes. That came home nearly 5 seconds down in 2nd place. So the bar has moved in the GT4 Challenge, but those teams getting better and better. So now really just the countdown to the podium celebrations, the last few drives we could see being rounded up. But let's go back to the highlights of the race. It was a busy, busy grid at the start of the race, as you would expect. People getting down to take a look at the cars. 31 cars coming out to play, the biggest grid in the 2nd championship. It looks so it was absolutely even down to the first corner. Martin Rump on the Audi on the inside, Dennis Lind in his Lamborghini on the outside, who clearly went around the outside. You'd have thought Martin Rupp would have been able to hang on, but that Lamborghini braked so late, swept around the corner on the outside, able to tuck into the front at turn 2, and then gradually started edging clear over the opening laps. But then Martin Rupp came on strong and started coming back onto his tail. He got down to a fraction of a second. Chasing along behind, Shane Davis moved up into 3rd place, looking really good in the 911 Porsche. The 81 BMW leading the way, but I think there'd been a little setback for the 666 Mercedes. It fell to 4th in the GT4 class before it started its charge and started coming back through the field with young Japanese former Formula 3 racer Ruichiro Otsuka at the wheel. But he certainly looked very handy indeed. And here was a continuation of the charge. Martin Rump in 2nd place, chasing after Dennis Lind, as you can see, getting super, super close. But then what happened? They came up on the traffic, and certainly the race leader was rather more effective through that when they came to these gaggles of GT3 cars. And there you can see Dennis Lind cutting his way through, and unfortunately the back of the pack, and they're getting caught behind not 1, 2, but 3 GT4 cars. Suddenly the gap went from a second to 4 seconds for Martin Rump. And then it came up to the pit stops, but While most of the teams were nice and tidy with their pit stops, there was a further problem for the 19 car, the race leader, because they had to have an extra 10 seconds at a standstill due to their success in previous rounds, and that meant they'd come out down in effectively third place overall. Their pit stop was a little messy too as they clattered their stopping board. For most of the field though, it's a question of driver out, driver in. The 666 car was handed over from Suzuka. And now here's the messy pit stop for the race leader. The Team EBI Porsche pulled out in front of it and then braked slightly later. Didn't matter, hit the pit board and came out onto the circuit right in the thick of the traffic. The 19 car in the real mix, and after the pit stops it was Frankie Chen Kong Fu who came out in the lead of the race, and he's been chased by Sandy Stuvik. Stuvik got very close indeed, challenged around the outside, but it wasn't to work, and after that Frankie Chen Kong Fu got his head down, took a tenth of a second here, a tenth of a second here, and eventually got a 1.5 second lead, and that looked very good indeed because the 991 Porsche was pushing, but really wasn't expected to haul that back in. Indeed he didn't. In the GT4 class it was 81 BMW all the way, with Jukachu bringing it home. Bonnet looks a little bit loose there as it comes down to the first corner of the circuit. He got ahead of the 666 Mercedes, or it was in the first stint of the race, and he simply stayed there, much as Frankie Chen Kong Fu did in that number 3 Absolute Racing Audi. Stroked it home towards the end of the race. The challenge from Sandy Stuvik was expended, it was all used up. He did come closer to the tail of the car, but really for Frankie Chen Kong Fu, as he swept through the last corner for the final time, you can see the checkered flag. He backed off 0.8 of a second between first and second. Two very happy crews. There's still lights flashing on the 19 Lamborghini because Martin Kodrich managed to overcome that 10-second penalty in the pits and bring it home in third place for yet more championship points, just ahead of Nick Foster. But the winners today, Frankie Chen Kong Fu and the driver who started, Martin Rump. Can they do the same tomorrow? So the giant Ferris wheel continues to spin slowly as a landmark over the circuit. I'm sure the people there enjoyed it, but right now we're going to head down to the podium because it's time to enjoy the action there and see the celebrations of the crews who came good today. Don't forget, we have the GT3 overall challengers first, then we have Pro-Am, Am and GT4. Lots of podium ceremonies coming our way. Who's going to sport the biggest smile? Let's find out. So you can hear the third place crew of Dennis Lint and Martin Kodrick called up to the podium. They'll be slightly deflated because in terms of pace, the duo, Lint on the left and Kodrick on the right, had the pace to win the race, but they did have that 10 seconds extra at a standstill, but they drove beautifully today. Craft Bamboo Racing, nowhere near a podium yet. And now here we have Sandy Stuvik leading Shay Davis up onto that second step of the podium. But I'm sure bouncing up onto the podium will be Frankie Chen Kong Fu and the driver who started it all, Martin Rupp, victors today for Absolute Racing. So here's Hiroyuki Shiotsu, General Manager of the Suzuka Circuit. He's at Suzuka Circuit, out to present the trophies. The FFF Racing team getting remarkably used to them. This will be the first trophy this year for Craft Bamboo Racing in the GT3 class. No wonder that Sandy Stuvik and Shay Davis looked so pleased to receive their trophies from Hiroyuki Shiotsu. And for Frankie Chen Kong Fu and for Martin Rump, the smiles are smiles of quiet satisfaction with that first win of their campaign. Yeah, that's for the team.
The series director, SRO, to award the checks.
And one of the features of SRO series is you get large checks, large in dimension and large in numbers. So $2,500 for third place, second place crew, don't forget to give it to your team. And then they get $5,000, then $10,000 for the winners. So many things to hold that
together now for a photo.
The drivers need to get squeezed together for the photo, but they've already got their eyes down, they know what they want to do next. And looking at those bottles, they know they want to spray. Now it's trophies down, checks down, time to spray your teammate, your dearest friend, in the head with some champagne. And there we go, into the head, into the eyes. The drivers hopefully have a spare set of overalls because they smell absolutely horrendous afterwards when they've been hot and get covered in champagne. But a lot of new faces up on the top steps of the podium today, on the podium itself, and they will savour this moment. Maybe it's a pivotal moment in their season, but hats off, most notably, to the drivers on the top step, Frankie Chen Kung Fu and Martin Rump, who don't want to leave. They're so happy to be there. Shea Davis can't get enough of it, just signalling and whooping down at his team. So a big, big turnaround for the Craft Bamboo Racing crew here at Suzuka, which is great to see. And unfortunately for Craft Bamboo Racing, we saw the sister car coming into the pits. It had a drive-through penalty, but it also a stop-and-go penalty, but it also had rear-end damage. That didn't complete the race. Likewise, the number 37 car that appears to have biffed it up the backside, that also ended the race in the pit garage. And at the very same lap, the number 7 sister car for Absolute Racing, sister car to 37 and sister car to the race winner, was also parked up. So a sudden downturn for Absolute Racing, but they came away with the top prize, don't forget.
And now we have the GT3 Pro-Am ceremony. We welcome with applause, in third position, Maurice Churn and Tim Slade in car number 28.
So lots of whooping for car number 28 coming up for third place in the Pro-Am class, and that's the second of the Hub Auto Corsa Ferraris, Maurice Chen and Tim Slade. Second place in class, the Group M Racing entry, Alexander Matchell and Raffaele Marciello. Alexander coming out first, and Raffaele second. Tomorrow I expect we'll see Raffaele rather higher up the field. And sixth place overall, but the winners of the Pro-Am class from KCMG, Yuki Taniguchi, who's a regular, and Alexandra Imperatori, who's joined the team this weekend in place of Tsugo Matsuda. And I really feel we can see a lot more of the Swiss driver as well. He really got that flying in the second half of the race.
CEO of Dixon to award the trophies.
So the CEO of Dixel, that's Masahiko Ida, handing out the trophies. Alexander Matchell getting a lot of trophies this year. And the younger Raffaele Marciello happy with another trophy. And the winners' trophies, out they come. First to Alexander Imperatori on the right of the podium, but on the top step alongside him, Yuki Taniguchi, the KCMG Nissan crew, victorious in the Pro-Am class. And the AM driver in the lineup, Benjamin Franicevici, Series Director from SRO, gives the clock to the AM driver in the pairing, so they get something to put on their workshop wall, their office wall. Looks great, a Blancpain clock. That's the first win in class this year for Yukinori Taniguchi. So regular mayhem up on the podium. It's been an enthralling day's racing here at Suzuka. They've got to do it all again tomorrow. But we've had a real change of scene at Suzuka. We might have a further change with rain tomorrow, but what we like, the pot has been mixed. We've come away with new winners today. Overall winners, Pro-Am winners, GT4 winners. But that's the wonderful sight over the Suzuka circuit. It stayed dry, there was a threat of rain, there was overtaking down into the opening corner of the race. Some great racing in between, some teams getting punishments and fighting back. But really the story of the day is Porsche started good at coming good with second place, but Absolute Racing put down their first win of the year. And we'll take you away with victory for Frankie Chen Kung Fu and Martin Rump. Will they do it tomorrow?
Shimasaka.